Zara pressed her scaled palm against the cold metal wall of the detention center. Her violet eyes searched the darkness beyond the energy barrier that held her captive. For 3 cycles she had been trapped in this human facility on the mining station orbiting Kepler 442b. The humans called it Freedom Station, but for her it felt like anything but freedom. She was Vorthak, a species the humans had encountered only months ago during their expansion into the Outer Rim territories. Her people were tall and elegant with iridescent scales that shifted from deep purple to silver, depending on their mood. The humans seemed fascinated by her kind, yet also deeply suspicious. Captain Jake Morrison walked down the corridor toward her cell. Zara had watched him many times through the transparent aluminum walls. He was different from the other humans. Where they showed fear or disgust when they looked at her, he showed only curiosity. His brown hair was always slightly messy, and his green eyes held an intelligence that reminded her of her own people. "Good morning, Zara," Jake said as he approached her cell. He carried a tray of food that actually looked appetizing, unlike the gray paste the guards usually brought. "Captain Morrison," she replied in heavily accented English. Learning the human language had been difficult but necessary for survival. "You bring food again?" Jake nodded and set the tray down near the energy barrier. "I thought you might like something better than standard rations. My grandmother used to make this bread recipe." Zara tilted her head, studying him. Among her people, such personal gestures meant deep respect or attraction. She wondered what it meant to humans. "Why do you treat me with kindness when your people see me as enemy?" "Because I don't think you are an enemy," Jake said simply. "I think you were in the wrong place at the wrong time when that Vorthak raiding party attacked our supply convoy." She was surprised by his directness. Most humans spoke in circles, never saying what they truly meant. "You believe I am innocent." "I believe you were trying to stop the attack, not participate in it," Jake replied. "The security footage shows you arguing with the other Vorthak before the shooting started." Zara felt her scales shift to a lighter shade of silver. He had been paying attention to details others had missed. "My brother led that raiding party. I followed to bring him home. Violence is not our way, but humans took our water rights on Kepler 442c. Desperation makes people do terrible things." Jake leaned against the wall across from her cell. "What really happened out there, Zara?" She closed her eyes, remembering the chaos. "My brother Keth believed humans would never negotiate fairly. He gathered warriors to take supplies by force. I tried to convince him this was wrong. When fighting began, I tried to protect human civilians. Your security team saw only another Vorthak with weapons. The testimony from the survivors backs up your story," Jake said quietly. "But Command doesn't want to hear it. They want someone to blame for the 3 humans who died." Zara felt her scales darken to deep purple, the color of grief among her people. "I am sorry for your losses. Death brings pain to all thinking beings." Jake studied her face. There was something about her expression that seemed completely genuine. "What would happen if I got you out of here?" "Captain Morrison, that would be impossible," she said, though her scales brightened slightly with hope. "Your superiors would consider it treason?" "Maybe," Jake said, standing up straighter. "But keeping an innocent person locked up is wrong regardless of what species they belong to." Zara moved closer to the energy barrier. "Why would you risk everything for someone like me?" Jake met her violet gaze steadily. "Because someone like you helped save human lives when she could have just walked away." That evening, Jake returned to her cell, but this time he was not alone. A small woman with red hair followed behind him, carrying a bag of equipment. Zara recognized her as Amy Carter, the station's chief engineer. "Amy is going to disable the containment field," Jake explained. "We have maybe 10 minutes before the guards notice." Zara felt her hearts racing. Her people had 2 hearts that beat in rhythm during times of stress. "You're serious about this?" "Dead serious," Amy said as she attached a device to the control panel. "Jake convinced me that keeping you locked up violates every principle the Federation claims to stand for." The energy barrier flickered and disappeared. For the first time in 3 cycles, Zara could step outside her cell. The feeling was overwhelming. "We need to move quickly," Jake said. "Amy has a shuttle prepped in Docking Bay 7. You can reach the neutral zone before anyone realizes you're gone." Zara hesitated. "What about you both if they discover your involvement?" "We will face the consequences," Jake said firmly. "Some things are more important than following bad orders." They moved through the service corridors, avoiding main passages where security cameras were active. Amy led them through maintenance tunnels she knew by heart from years working on the station. Zara had to crouch in many places as the tunnels were built for human height. Almost there, Amy whispered as they reached a junction near the docking bay. Suddenly alarm klaxons began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights bathed everything in crimson. They know, Jake said grimly. Security forces would be mobilizing within minutes. They ran the final distance to Docking Bay 7, where a small courier ship waited with engines already warming up. Get aboard, Amy said, opening the hatch. The autopilot is programmed to take you to the neutral zone at Proxima Station. Zara climbed into the pilot seat but turned back to look at Jake. I cannot leave you to face punishment alone. You have to, Jake replied. Your people need to know that some humans still believe in doing what is right. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear security teams calling for the docking bay to be sealed. In moments, they would be surrounded. Jake, Zara said urgently, come with me. He shook his head. This is my home. I won't abandon it even if it means facing a court-martial. Amy was already sealing the hatch from outside. Launch now, she shouted over the alarms. Zara engaged the engines and the small ship lifted off just as security forces entered the docking bay. She watched through the rear cameras as Jake and Amy were surrounded and taken into custody. The journey to Proxima Station took 18 hours. During the long flight, Zara had time to think about what Jake had done for her. No Vorthak would have risked so much for a stranger from another species. Perhaps there was more to humans than her people understood. When she arrived at Proxima Station, she immediately requested an audience with the Vorthak ambassador. Council leader Vex was an old female whose scales had turned white with age and wisdom. Young Zara, Vex said when they met in the ambassador's private chambers, we feared you were lost. I was saved by humans who risked everything to free an innocent person, Zara explained. She told the whole story of her imprisonment and escape. Vex listened carefully. This Captain Morrison showed great honor. He did, Zara agreed. But now he faces punishment from his own people. We cannot let this stand. What do you propose, child? Zara straightened to her full height. I want to testify at his trial. Let the Federation hear the truth about what happened during the convoy attack. 3 weeks later, Zara stood in a Federation courtroom on Earth facing a panel of judges. Jake sat at the defendant's table looking tired but determined. When their eyes met across the room, he smiled slightly. Ambassador Zara of the Vorthak Collective, the chief judge announced. You may present your testimony, Zara stepped forward. She wore traditional Vorthak robes that shimmered like starlight. Her scales had turned pale gold, the color of truth among her people. Honorable judges, she began. I stand before you as living proof that Captain Morrison acted with honor and wisdom. He saw past species differences to recognize injustice. This is the mark of true leadership. She detailed the convoy attack and her brother's misguided attempt to steal supplies. She explained how Jake had studied the evidence carefully, while others rushed to judgment. My people have a saying, Zara continued. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Captain Morrison was tested by circumstances that would have broken lesser beings. He chose compassion over conformity. When she finished speaking, the courtroom was silent. Even the prosecutors seemed moved by her words. The judges deliberated for only 30 minutes. When they returned, the chief judge stood. Captain Morrison, he announced. While you violated direct orders, your actions prevented a diplomatic incident that could have led to war. You are hereby acquitted of all charges. Jake slumped with relief as Amy hugged him from the gallery. Furthermore, the judge continued, you are being promoted to commander and assigned as our new liaison to the Vorthak Collective. After the trial, Jake found Zara waiting outside the courthouse. The late afternoon sun made her scales shimmer like jewels. Thank you, he said simply. Thank you, she replied. You showed me that courage exists in all species. They walked together toward the spaceport where Zara would catch transport back to Vorthak space. Will I see you again? Jake asked. Zara smiled, an expression she had learned from humans. You are our new liaison, Commander Morrison. I suspect we will be working together quite often. As her transport lifted off, Jake watched until it disappeared among the stars. He had entered her world as a stranger, and found something he had not expected to find: understanding between species that seemed completely different.